to everybody. Lovely to see you all. And of course, thank you to EJ once again for this. I've been telling a few people, EJ has catapulted us completely into the 21st century with our Mystic Matters group. So thanks a million for all you're doing, EJ. And we'd like to welcome very much the Father Bishop Robert, is it? And welcome you to our tip of Africa, South Africa, where we gather to share matters mystical. And I think, as you said, EJ, there are a few others from the community of the White Robe monks, and you're all most welcome. And then to everyone else, lovely to see you all again and to see some new faces. And we're really looking forward to this presentation. And also, many of us are very interested in the actual community and the order you all belong to. So there might be a lot of questions afterwards. But thank you very much. Thanks, EJ, once again.
Yeah, so as Celia said, just to welcome to the community of the White Robe monks. We've got Bishop Oliver, Father Karel Piet, and of course Bishop Robert Dittler. So I'll just ask Bishop Robert just to say a few words before we start.
A greeting of peace to each and every one. Hello. And thank you for the invite to give this presentation. And Eugene, am I correct that we are to begin now?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So the title of this presentation has become Zen and Christianity, Thy Will Be Done. And we're going to start with the meditation. And for this meditation, please remember that we hear with our ears and listen with our quiet mind. Just be aware of the words, what you are listening to, possibly the words themselves, or possibly your internal editorial narrative about the words or the exercise itself. There is no correct or incorrect activity. We are just being aware of what is happening in the moment. So again, just be aware of the words and if any narrative is going on inside of your head as we are doing this. It's not right or wrong, good or bad, up or down, in or out. So we are going to begin with the Heart Sutra. The Heart Sutra is the embodiment the Zen experience. It is said at least once a day in all Zen monasteries throughout both East and West. And it goes as such. Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, when practicing deeply the Prajnaparamita, perceived that all five skandhas of their own being were empty and was saved from all suffering. O Shariputra, form does not differ from emptiness. Emptiness does not differ from form. That which is form is emptiness, and that which is emptiness form. The same is true of feelings, perceptions, impulses, consciousness. O Shariputra, all dharmas are marked with emptiness. They do not appear or disappear, are not tainted or pure, do not increase or decrease. Therefore, no thoughts, no feelings, no perception, no impulses, no consciousness, no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no color, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object of mind until no realm of mind consciousness. No ignorance, and also no extinction of it. No old age and death, and also no extinction of them. No suffering, no path, no origination, no stopping, no cognition, and also no attainment with nothing to attain. Sattva depends upon prajna paramita, and his or her mind is no hindrance. No fears exist. Far apart from every perverted view, the individual. In the three worlds, all Buddhists proclaim the prajna paramita mantra and attain unsurpassed, perfect enlightenment. Therefore, know that the prajna paramita mantra, great transcendent mantra, is the bright mantra, is the utmost mantra, is the supreme mantra, which is true and able to relieve all suffering, and is not false. So proclaim the prajna paramita mantra, proclaim the mantra that says, Gate, 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 Parasam Gate Bodhiswaha. And Gasho. Please appreciate that the words that follow express only my opinion. They have no meaning in and of themselves. The meaning they may have, we each are. The origin of the intended meaning behind these words is typically termed a field far beyond form and emptiness. We do not deny or affirm the existence of thoughts, feelings, emotions, people, places, things, or events. Neither do we not necessarily affirm that form is emptiness and that emptiness is form. We can assert that form and emptiness are the same, as they are not either. Yet, form is empty, emptiness is empty. And what the heck does all this mean? The teaser Eugene presented for this talk suggested living in the now. Well, guess what? There is no time. Time as such does not exist. It is and it is not. The existence of time depends upon one's perspective. What is the classical definition of time but the measurement of motion? The movement of the sun, the moon, the stars, galaxies, and the universe. Hence, we have solar, lunar, sidereal, galactic, and even universal time from Big. We also have time zones from Greenwich Mean Time. There is no time. Given a Zen perspective, if time is the measurement of motion, then there must be a measurer. And who is the measurer? We are. Before we came onto the scene, there was no time. Now, we ourselves created time. Likewise, there is no past, present, or future. These constructs are just that, theoretical constructs we form in our minds. Now, we get ourselves into trouble when we take time personally, or any event for that matter, even our own life. If we take time personally, we may get ourselves thereby enjoying depression, believing in past unforgiven wrongs. Or we may get ourselves caught in thoughts of a future, believing our stories of what might happen, and hence enjoy anxiety. Or we may catch ourselves in an elusive present and worry whether or not we should be depressed or anxious. And is this not so? Being now, we realize that we are making all of this up. The worry, the depression, the anxiety, the hope, the joy, the sorrow, the happiness, the guilt, the shame, and the blame. Such qualia are existing only in our head, and hence a fantasy life that we are creating to entertain ourselves and suffer accordingly, wanting the moment to be other than what it is, to support our victim identity consciously or unconsciously. We want, and so therefore we suffer. We can be victims of, being attached to, our joys and sorrows, aches and pains, thoughts and feelings, and so on as the human condition provides. Now, Zen practice opens the gateless gate to experience the discriminating mind for just what it is, a discriminating potential. The key word here, potential. We do not have to discriminate, to think. When we let ourselves become victims of the human condition, all we need to do is to refocus upon our breathing. Listen carefully, especially as the space between each inhale and exhale. The space between the exhale that opens up the next inhale, that opens up the next exhale, and so on. Please recall that we begin our phenomenal existence with an inspiration, and we complete it with an expiration. Now, we all know that that which we resist persists. We recognize our thoughts, feelings, and emotions, people, places, things, and events as being just clouds. Clouds pass. The sky remains the same. Without attachment, we can let them be. We, being the sky, only just sit. Shikantasa. We may recall that Christ only had 2 commandments: love God, love neighbor. Now, to love, we must relinquish our worship of the great Trinity of the human condition. Of course, that great Trinity of the human condition is me, myself, and of course, I. The source of so much unnecessary pain and suffering. The more bored we are, the more we exist in time. The more we exist in time, we allow ourselves to be more confused. We may engage in forms of deception by thinking of past events or could-have-beens. We may engage in forms of anxiety by thinking about future events. By the way, the mind often takes the most horrible extreme outcome as a possibility. Such thinking we have labeled catastrophe thinking. Or we may engage in worry by thinking about both past and future events simultaneously. What was and what may be. And as we find in Matthew 6:34, we need not worry. In Zen practice, we come to know that all our perceptions are true as just perceptions, and their contents, in fact, false, being but our creation and our dream-like product of delusion. The more we take our perceptions as true or personally, the less we are. We then bind ourselves into a prison of our own making. We cannot meet the now with effortless, effective, and efficient action. For example, the sounds you are now hearing are just waves impacting the tympanic membrane to which you are giving meaning. The meaning each of you are creating may not necessarily refer to the meaning I am intending to convey, and hence the human condition. Beauty, like meaning, is in the eye or ear of the beholder. As an extreme example, in the sadomasochistic universe, the more pain the better, as it is so enjoyable. Don't hit me, oftentimes is the victim's call to hit me more. The human condition is pathological from one perspective. All the human pain and suffering, a genocide here, a mass shooting there, a corruption over there, and so on, all in praise of the Great Trinity, which, by the way, is really running the show. As we know, we are only about 3% conscious in any one moment, leaving 95% of the moment outside of our conscious purview. And that 95% is generally producing the narrative we call my life. We victimize ourselves by taking personally, attaching ourselves to any one thought, feeling, or emotion, people, place, thing, or event. We know from human experience, whether or not we like it or not, the only constant is change. Nothing is permanent, as Heraclitus and the historical Buddha observed. The victim seeks a rescuer, whom the victim then ends up persecuting. The rescuer now becomes a victim, and so the Cartman Triangle unfolds dialectically throughout human history. So the more we love, the more we recognize ego function for what it is, a narcissistic call for power, status, or prestige in the moment. Life is not the way I want it to be. Life is just life. And life has no meaning in and of itself. So where does meaning exist? Meaning exists in our own heads. We project our meaning onto life. Our projections are based upon the belief systems we maintain. Spell the word belief. B-E-L-I-E-F. Do you sense the lie in belief? The more we remember the lie in every belief, we may re-enter now. More often than not, we our belief systems unknowingly by acculturating into a family, state, or church, in whatever form they may take. And what is the lie? The lie is twofold. First, that there are beliefs. Please know that there are no beliefs as such. There are neural networks in our brains that we have formed and maintained. It takes about 30 days to practice to let a new belief or a new network form, a new conditioned habit pattern of behavior. The second aspect of the lie in belief is that my belief is the true belief. Hence, some of us believe that our beliefs are absolutely true, like God. How many of God's children have killed one another because of conflicting beliefs about God? We need to wage war and kill based upon pure and absolute fantasies. Beliefs just exist in our heads. Hence, our expressed beliefs are at best opinions. God is just a concept, and it has nothing to do with God as such. We may believe the lie of our own belief. Please remember that that great Trinity is not real. It itself, electrochemical activity we have created and maintained in our phenomenal apparatus. Yes, we each have created and do maintain our fanciful ego constructs as a symbol to the human condition until we expire. The cars we drive, we believe safe until we get to our destination. It's only at our destination we know that the brakes worked. The chairs we are sitting on now, we only know that they will support us to the degree that they are still structured when we stand up. When we sit down, we believe that the chair is going to support us. We believe that the brakes are going to work. In Zen practice, we always realize that that might not be the case. In Zen, we open the gateless gate for us to experience life with full and absolute positive regard for ourselves and for other human beings and for all sentient beings. We are the space from within which we are emerged. Again, we are the space between the inhale and the exhale, from within which we each emerge. We are the creators of our own experience, being responsible for our own integrity. Enter compassion. We typically define compassion as being able to recognize that another is suffering and then to do something to relieve that suffering. In some instances, it is best to do nothing. Otherwise, the sufferer does not learn. A codependency does not ensue. Hence, we are truly present, listening, and letting the person come to his or her own resolution. Empowerment. We can love our enemies and pray for those who speak ill of us, as Mark 5:44 suggests. We can respond now rather than take personally, reacting in a present tense, the circumstances of the moment. Do we really have to react and create a situation for ourselves and others in our purview? Of course not. We may recall in such a moment Christ's own kinesis or self-emptying, as suggested in Philippians 2, verse 7. As we refocus on our breath, living with full humility in response to the psalmist's admonition, be still and know that I am God. Living out Jesus' prayer, which now together in our hearts, please let us say together along with me. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Thy will be done. Thy will be done. Thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank Eugene and Mystic Matters community again for inviting me to give this presentation. And thank you each and every one who listened to this presentation. And if you have a question, please ask. Questions as to how the information may apply to day-to-day realities are most welcome. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bishop Robert. Celia. Still muted. Ah, there we go.
Am I there?
Thank you.
Bishop Robert. Sorry, I'm just trying to sort this out here. Let me come back to you. I think it's working. Is it
Yes.
working? Can you hear me? Okay. Sorry, we've had a few glitches with my own computer, so I'm using Derek's computer. So yes, thank you so much, Bishop Robert. And there's so many questions, I think, perhaps about your community and your order that I think many of us might wish to ask you in a little while. I think my first query would be, how has the order linked so strongly to Zen?
Once again, please.
Yes, with respect to your particular order, the white-robed monks of St. Benedict, how has the link with Zen come about? Was that a part of the founding charism of this particular order?
Yes. Now, in the Benedictines, the original Benedictines in the Rule of St. Benedict, there is a section, a large section called or addressed to singing the divine office. Originally, there were 7 hours, and inquire and sing the divine office. As time went on, various white Benedictine communities adjusted that practice according to their own charism. Pardon me. So the Carthusians tend not to chant. The Camaldolese tend not to chant except on Sundays when they come together for community mass and office. In our community, because we are scattered all over the place and live independently, it became more conducive to have a practice that didn't require a group in-present community activity. And hence we established Zen practice, specifically Soto Zen meditation, as our monastic practice. So we all sit every day, no matter where we are, because Earth is our monastery.
Thank you. That's fascinating. Earth is your monastery, because I was actually asking Eugene about the community itself. You don't have settled community buildings where you gather together. You are, as it were, scattered worldwide.
Yes.
Yes.
Because it's one world. We all are a part of the human community. The
Yes.
human community is our monastic community.
Right. So we could all be part of that, but in a sense, without joining the order.
May I suggest that you are a part of our community?
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Sorry.
One moment. In the within, everybody is a part of our community in our own mindset. Whom we meet, everybody is a part of our monastic community. Some folks wish to have a more formal relationship, and they join what is called the Benedictine network, and they receive periodic communications from us. Then there is another smaller group who wish to make even a more formal commitment to themselves in their life, and they're as postulants. And then they go through and make promises, and then a final profession of promises for life. So it depends upon each individual, how formal they wish to associate themselves, consciously or unconsciously.
Sounds
Okay.
fascinating. Thank you.
All right.
So, anyone else who would like, please feel free.
Trish?
Yes, Patricia?
I just want to know, to be a Christian, it's part of being the body of Christ. So we all belong to one another. It's exactly the same as what you're saying your way of life is. Now, I do centering prayer, and I believe that when I pray, I include everybody, my next door neighbor, my family, and it comes on the people that are dead as well, and those to come. It's a group, which isn't very much different from what you say in your group.
Correct.
Am I correct?
You are totally correct. We are all children of God. We all are part of God's family, the human family, future, in time and outside of time.
Yeah. So you're not exclusive.
Totally not.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Patricia.
When Jesus was asked, what are the commandments of the law? And you said quite correctly, Jesus quoted two. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul and mind and strength, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. That loving God with all your heart and soul and mind and strength, is that a possibility, an ideal, an illusion, or something that we are really commanded to do, and is therefore something we can do?
As with everything in the human condition, loving God and loving is not absolute. It's a practice. It's an ongoing practice. To continue practice. And it's really a practice of surrendering our will. Because remember, thy will be done. Things occur in life. People do things I don't like. I like. I wish they would be better. I wish they would be different. They are in the moment. And part of the practice for each and every one of us is to surrender our own will, wanting that moment to be other than what it is. Because remember, God loves us all equally and unconditionally. And it's we ourselves who separate ourselves from God by thinking otherwise. Judge not lest you be judged. So it's then judgment involves a discriminating mind. I have to discriminate between right and wrong, good and bad, up and down, in and out. God does not discriminate that way. God is God, totally inclusive. God's love is infinite, and God's love is eternal. Now, there's a slight little difference between those two words. Eternal means no beginning and no end. Infinity means a beginning without an end. And for any of us to dare define God is our own hubris. Because we cannot comprehend God. God is beyond our comprehension. So at best as human beings, what we do is practice. And in that practice, again, is always in the moment, surrendering our ego to what is the case. And the more we surrender ourselves in the moment, the more we are able to effectively, efficiently, and effortlessly impact the moment. Rather than causing more trouble, we might be able to mollify the situation by more of a responsive action than a reactive action. When we react, we are reacting in our ego. When we respond, we take a moment, stop. Now, breathe for a couple. Gosh, I don't know really what's going on. And none of us in the moment really know what's going on. We think we know what's going on, but we really don't. And to be aware of that moment by moment by moment of our own thoughts, feelings, and emotions, people, places, things, and events, We become more open to the practice of learning how to love God and learning how to love our neighbor, which involves learning how to accept and appreciate our own selves. Because it's only to the degree that I can appreciate and love myself that I am even in the I'm in the potential of loving anyone else. Because it's not about me. In a relationship, it's about us. And in the human condition, the more we learn it's about us, rather than me, myself, or I, we practice loving God and loving our neighbor and loving ourselves. I talk a lot. Is that enough, Patricia?
You've given me a lot to think about. Thank you.
You're welcome. God love you.
Hi,
Hi.
everyone. I'm just strongly thinking about Thomas Keating's welcoming prayer as you were talking about accepting the moment. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to share those that don't know it?
Oh, I don't know how, sorry. But you can Google it.
Okay.
I can maybe try and help because I've been trying to say it daily. Basically, it's to welcome whatever comes your way, not to welcome it, to welcome your feelings or fear, and then to say, I let go the desire for survival and security. I let go of the desire for affection and esteem. I let go of power and control. And I let go of the desire to change any given situation. So that's the welcoming prayer.
Amen.
Amen. I was just thinking as you were talking, so often in the essence of so many religions or mystic religions are the same. The deepness of it, it's just the same. You know, that's what, I don't know if you know Thomas Keating, but that's what he was about, you know?
Yes.
Mm.
Underneath all religions, East and West, North and South,
Yes.
they all are echoing the same instruction. The
Yes.
words are different, but the deep structure is all the same.
Yes.
And it's a basic understanding that it is we ourselves individually who screw things up.
Yes.
We do it.
Yeah.
And then what we do is we create ourselves as victims, looking for someone else to rescue us from our victimhood. Be that the guru, be that the priest, be that. And then when we are finally rescued, we then turn around and then have to persecute that rescuer for taking care of me when I should have been able to do it myself. And I get angry at that other person for doing what I know I ought to have done by myself. And this is known as the Cartman Triangle, K-A-R-P-M-A-N, victim, rescuer, persecutor. And it's a dialectical realization of the human condition. We do it between nations, we do it in families, we do it in schools, we do it in religion, formal institutional religion. We do this in religious communities. It's a part of the human condition. And in Zen practice, what we are able to do is to recognize it. And the more we can recognize what's going on, we don't have to buy into it or react into it, and we can let it be. As the old Beatles song would be, let it be. And then in that letting it be, able to change it. Evolve, and if need be, do something proactive in the moment. Out of compassion and out of love of God and neighbor.
Bishop Robert, Celia and I have been talking a lot about spiritual practices that can support us. Do you have any thoughts about, I know that there's something like Zazen meditation, but I'm not very familiar with it. Any thoughts on spiritual practice that can help us, especially to still the mind?
Sure. Your breath. All you have to do is just pay attention to your breathing. If you want a formal way to breathe for a few moments, breathe into the count of 4, hold to the count of 4, exhale to the count of 4, inhale to the count of 4, and repeat 2 or 3 times. And what you're doing is reoxygenating the body and giving yourself a chance to pause. Remember the pause button on the computer. You can pause and not just react. And as far as a spiritual practice, remember there is no such thing in some respects as a spiritual practice. There's just practice. We don't have to complicate the thing, In the human experience, all religious traditions somehow come back again to breathing. And as we mentioned earlier, remember, we begin our phenomenal experience with an inspiration. And we complete our phenomenal existence with an expiration, breathing. The Tibetans have many breathing practices. In Zen practice, it's all just pay attention to your breathing. Refocus to your breathing. If you notice your mind is going away, refocus to the breathing. Sitting perfectly still, not moving. And remember, if we use our minds as a spiritual practice, that's only an entry. We have contemplative prayer, the Jesus prayer. We have different practices in the Kabbalah. We have Tibetan practices. But eventually what happens is we can let that go and we can get behind our thinking, our projecting, our judgments, and we can let be without getting stressed out in the moment. And if we want to be stressed out, guess what? Enjoy it. That's what we're doing. Okay, cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
May I ask, do you have encounters with other religious traditions as part of your charism?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch all of that.
Okay, let me try. As part of the charism of the white-robed monks, are you involved in interreligious, interspiritual dialogue and practice with other religions?
In the San Francisco community, our chancellor is the executive director of the Interfaith Council. And this is a council of the religions in the Bay Area who have joined together as one voice. So yes, at least in San Francisco, I can speak of. Our Texas community has an outreach program to pastors in the community. The vicar also has many contacts with many different Catholic communities, independent Catholic communities. And on the East Coast, Father Peter has many contacts with, how can I say this? I don't want to say Pentecostal, I don't want to say evangelical. I'm not familiar exactly with whom he's contacting, but he, Friends, there we are. The more of the Quakers and the Friends communities.
Thank you. So that means you would gather together with them for prayer, meditation, zazen?
No, not necessarily. This would be more of a political activity.
Oh, okay.
Getting involved in the community. Remember, our own practice of zazen is a private matter with ourselves that we engage in with the rest of humanity. We are breathing along with humanity.
Right.
Very much like heart math, if you're familiar with heart math. Heart math is basically breathing, their hearts are beating with everybody else's heart on the planet. In zazen, we are breathing with everybody else on the planet.
Yeah, that sounds lovely. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, Christophe.
Yes. So I am Father Christopher. I am the secretary for the bishops of South Africa about ecumenism and interreligious dialogue. So listening to you, I was wondering, how do you manage to avoid getting the impression that all religions are the same and we are all good, and so we make one soup? How do you manage to avoid spoiling the specificity of each religion and keeping standards high enough so that although it is crucifying to respect the difference deep down in our heart, it is all the same, I think and I believe, the only way to really let people be different, and so acknowledge that the religions are deeply different, although all valuable, although each able to contribute deeply to the welfare of humanity, but in such difference that we have to accept that we cannot understand really much about belief system of Buddhism or Hinduism as Christians. Yes, I think I've spoken enough to let you answer.
Could you do me a favor, please, and rephrase your question in one sentence?
How can we each religion to show its own cooking recipe so that people can really taste the difference, and to avoid kind of new age mixed bowl where different styles of cooking are so much mixed that it's not palatable anymore.
If I'm understanding correctly, how does one accept or respect many different religious traditions? Is that more or less what you're saying?
Yeah.
All right. Well, roses are roses, daffodils are daffodils, lilies are lilies. They're all flowers. Like some people like daffodils. And all religions approach to the same reality. All roads lead to Rome, as that old canard said. So what we do is and everybody is on the path at a different rate. Some people are running quickly. Some people are more slow. Some people stop and look at the view. Some people hang out for a while in a religious tradition. And then, as Patricia mentioned early on, she spent 4 years with the tradition of St. Dominic. And then she saw another opening and moved forward. It doesn't mean that she's anti the Dominicans anymore. She still respects them, I'm sure. Origination was in the Roman Catholic tradition, and I still respect that tradition. The white robed monks of St. Benedict are out of the old Catholic tradition. We respect that, and we move on. Life is always evolving, and we all end up at the same spot anyway at the end. And none of us know what that end spot is. Does that more or less answer your question, I hope?
Yeah, sure. That's a good image. Yeah.
Thank you, Christophe. And Patricia, I apologize if I did not grasp your reality properly.
What you said is perfectly true. I love the Dominicans. I will always have a Dominican part in my heart, but I have indeed felt called to move on to something else. You said it very nicely, and I was pleased. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
May I ask you, when you said you started as Roman Catholic, and you still respect that tradition, but now you've moved into Zen, is that for you a combination, or have you left Roman Catholicism behind as part of your story, part of your path, and you are now fully Zen?
No, remember, Zen for us replaces our chanting practice.
Oh.
Zen Buddhism is not Buddhism.
Oh.
No, Zen Buddhism is Zen Buddhism.
Can you explain a bit more?
I'd be happy to. All right. In Buddhism is divided into 3 general schools: Hinayana, Mahayana, and Vajrayana. They are entirely institutionalized. The lesser vehicle, the greater vehicle, and Vajrayana, which is the Tibetan vehicle. In Hinayana Buddhism, only the monk really can be enlightened. Therefore, they have a heavy emphasis on the monastic Sangha. Mahayana Buddhism opens the door for everybody to be enlightened. And then Vajrayana Buddhism is a combination of Tibetan Bon religion and Buddhism. So therefore, it looks like it's very Catholic. They have a lot of deities or saints. They have what are called a lot of empowerments, which are something analogous to a sacramental system. They are hierarchical. And there are several schools within Vajrayana. Now, the Dalai Lama is only a part of the Gupta. There's the Nyingma and so on and so forth. And they each have a Lama who is the head of that particular school. Just like in Catholicism, there are various jurisdictions.
Yes.
All the Orthodox schools are Catholic jurisdictions. In the West, we have Roman Catholic, Old Catholic, Catholic Apostolic, and they all have. And the white robe monks of St. Benedict, we were never a part of the Roman Catholic tradition. We are a part of what are called the Old Catholics.
Yes.
Are you familiar with the Old Catholics?
Yes, I am.
Everybody else need an explanation of the Old Catholics?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay.
Pre-Vatican II?
No. Yes, no. Not pre-Vatican II, but that we're talking, go back to Vatican I in 1869. In Vatican I, Pius IX was losing his authority over the Papal States. Victor Emmanuel was making Italy one country. And Pius IX wanted to ensure that the papacy still had some temporal say within the world community. There's many politics around this, so I'm just giving one view, and it's definitely not the correct view. It's just one view. All right? Please. And so he called what is known as Vatican I. And one of the dogmas of Vatican I was the primacy of the Pope. And this codified what was the practice in Roman Catholicism. But what happened was that it broke Catholic tradition. Up to this point, no bishop had veto authority over another bishop, even though in practice it was the case, but it was not a matter of law. Out of this dogma of primacy of the Pope, then they created the dogma of papal infallibility, whereas the Pope cannot make a mistake in faith and morals when speaking from the chair of Peter. There's a series of Dutch bishops who said, hey, boys and girls, this is bogus because it's going against Catholic tradition. And this was born out of the See of Utrecht in Holland. And what they did is they formed a confederation called the Old Catholic Church. And what they proceeded, and they said, as soon as the Romans get their act together and recognize the errors of their way, once they do that, we will disappear. Of course, that would never happen. And what they did is that they immediately threw out everything that had accreted into Catholicism that was advancing the socio-political agenda of the Roman Catholic Church. One of the first things that went out was clerical celibacy, because clerical celibacy was created in the 11th century as a cost-saving mechanism for the Roman Church.
Yes.
The first 13 popes were married. All the apostles were married. And there was a Benedictine monk sitting in the back office somewhere in the 11th century looking at the accounting ledger and said, we have a capital expense here. What was this capital expense? Because the Roman Church was following Roman law, Roman Catholic, the institutional church was responsible to pay for the wife and the children of any priest who died.
Yes.
So the easiest way to resolve this is to have clerical celibacy.
Yeah.
So the church was not responsible any longer for this capital expense. So the old Catholics threw that out. If you would go to France today, you will find two types of Catholic churches, one Old Catholic and one Roman Catholic. And you can identify the Catholic with a wedding band because they all got married and they all wear a wedding band. End of story. That's the Old Catholics in general. Look them up on the internet. Don't believe me, please. That's only one perspective.
So then are you part of the current Catholic Church? Are you accepted in
No.
it or not?
Okay, now we have another problem.
Yes.
Catholic jurisdictions are divided into what are known as jurisdictions. And there are several different types of jurisdictions. Autocephalous, independent, autonomous, and I'm forgetting one. Oh, national. The Church is a national jurisdiction. The Church of Georgia is they're not autocephalous, they are autonomous. What happens in these different jurisdictions, so say like if a bishop dies, the bishops of that jurisdiction get together and nominate 3 bishops to be the primus, the first bishop. That goes then to the mother church. The mother church, the primus there says, okay, Bishop A is the guy. In another jurisdiction, a bishop dies, the bishops get together and elect their own, and the primus affirms that. Now, in an autocephalous jurisdiction, which means the bishop is consecrated as a bishop in his own right, and that more or less analogously images the apostolic college. None of the apostles were institutionalized. They only had one experience that they shared in common. And for the lack of a better term, that was called the Paschal meal. So you'll have different liturgies evolving wherever these apostles went, because each apostle did what he thought was best in the moment to spread the word. And that's an autocephalous bishop. And the bishop, the white robe monks of St. Benedict have a bishop also as their head. So they are called an abbot bishop. And the abbot is consecrated an autocephalous bishop in his own right. So we are in the tradition of the Old Catholic Church, because that's where our lineage comes from. But we have nothing to do with the Old Catholic Church. Just like the Roman Catholic Church has nothing to do with us. We have nothing to do with them. Hence, we are the same because we are different. Perfect Zen.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I see a hand raised. Yes, Joy? Joy, you have to unmute yourself.
I didn't really have a question.
Oh, I see your hand. You have your hand raised. Oh, okay. Sorry.
But I thank you for this wonderful time you've spent with us. And I wish you a very safe and happy trip back to beautiful San Francisco.
Well, God love you. Thank you, Joy. All right, cool. Thank you. It's been an honor to be here. And I thank Bishop Oliver for his kind hospitality, for putting up.
Celia, you're
EJ, is there time for a little bit more discussion or
yeah, we still have some time.
Yes. Robert, I'd love to ask a little bit more about the origins of the white robe monks. Is there a founder? And the second question is, do you have the equivalent, as many other religious orders, do you have a group of women who are white-robed sisters or whatever they would be called? Or is it just male?
Up until this point, there are only male. We have 2 female deacons, both of whom are inactive. And we have had only 1 female who has requested orders. And no, we have 2. I'm sorry, we have 3 deacons, 3 female deacons. And for various reasons, neither one of them completed the process for orders with us. One went to another jurisdiction and was ordained through them. As far as sisters, in the ancient church, the white robe monks of St. Benedict image or so a monk is a monk. The concept of nun and sister developed later on in the Middle Ages. A nun was officially someone, might be able to correct me if I'm wrong on this, but a nun was someone who took solemn vows. a sister was someone who took simple vows, and sisters were usually connected to dioceses themselves rather than large congregations as such. So with the White Robe Monks of St. Benedict, we have many females who are part of the network. And again, going back to a nun, or I'm sorry, a monk is a name that can either be male or female. And if you look at the ancient church, especially the church in the desert, we have a lot of desert mothers and desert fathers. And there was no distinction made between male and female. They were all monks. Now remember, the word monk comes from the Greek word monos, which means one. So a monk is someone who appreciates the absolute unity of God. God is one. And they are always perpetuating themselves to seek God. So we don't make that gender distinction. A monk is a monk. We're all children of God. Yes, we can become sons and daughters of God, but you know, that's complicates things sometimes. Okay?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Christoph.
Yeah. So as a small group, let me say, because I guess you are not so many bishops and so many priests in your, how do you manage to keep standards high enough for formation, for resolution of conflicts, for, let us say, general renewal, ongoing formation of the faithful?
The fact that we are in the 21st century, everything occurs via the web. So we have two formation programs. One formation is for monasticism. The other formation is for orders. They are two distinct functions. Remember, orders is a function in society, whereas monasticism is more of an individual's appreciation of a lifestyle. So we have two different formation programs, and they are, the monastic formation program is not individualized. It's one program that all aspirants follow. The program for orders is individualized to the individual's educational background. So sometimes it will be 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. For the monastics, it's always a postulancy program up to a year, usually from time of entry to March 21st. Then a 1 year novitiate that may be extended to a 2 year or 3 year, depending upon the program, but usually it's 1 year. Then there's a 3 year junior, and finally at the profession. Meetings occur as needed, but usually everything is done via the web through emails and things such as that. Answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop Robert.
You're welcome. Okay.
So we will have time for one last question or comment. Great. Well, thank you for your time, Bishop Robert, and for coming to speak to us today. Celia, I'll leave the closing words to you.
Sorry, Eugene, I didn't quite hear what you said.
I'll leave the closing words to you.
Oh, the closing words. Oh, sure. Yes. Yes, thank you so very much for joining us. Isn't Zoom amazing? Where are you actually located at the moment, at this present moment?
In this present moment, I am in the kitchen of Bishop Oliver with Father Carl as well. There are three of us. Okay. Father Carl is here.
So which country are you in?
I'm in South Africa, in Johannesburg.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Well, welcome.
with Bishop Oliver and Father Carl.
Okay, we haven't really met Bishop Oliver or Father Carl. Maybe we'll have a chance, Eugene, to meet up with Father Carl and is it Bishop Oliver? That would be lovely.
Maybe Bishop Oliver and Father Carl would like to say hello.
Yeah, please say hello.
Yes. Where are you? Oh, here you are.
Hello. Bishop Oliver, you have to unmute yourself. How do you do that? There you go.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bishop Oliver, and with us is also one of our priests, Father Kourie.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Ah.
There we go.
Oh, okay. So now you're visiting South Africa, and Bishop Oliver and Father Carl, do you both live in South Africa?
Yes, they do.
Okay. Okay. So you have a small community here in South Africa. I know EJ and I have spoken a little bit about that. Yes, there's a lot more we could ask you, but perhaps we should give you some rest after this presentation. Rather fascinating to have this loosely knit community. And as, who is it saying at the beginning? I think it was Heather. When we are already in this one body of Christ, and this is a particular community which we usually associate with, you know, large institutions and congregations and so on. So I think we really need to thank you for letting us, you know, giving us an insight into the spirituality of the white-robed monks. And it seems, from what you're saying, it's something that we're all part of, whether or not we're formally part of this. And so it's been a real pleasure to listen to this. And so thank you so very much, Bishop Robert. By the way, now, if I may, do people keep calling you Bishop and Father, or can we say Robert and Carl and Oliver, or do we keep to these titles? Was that an embarrassing question?
No. All right, in-house, I'm called Father Abbot.
Okay.
All right. Outhouse. Sometimes Bishop Robert, sometimes Abbot, sometimes Robert, and George.
Yeah. How come is George? Where does George come from?
St. George killed the dragon.
Oh, okay.
That's just me being me. Now the non-clerical community calls me by my first name. It's up to them. I give them, you know, they ask me, what are you more comfortable being? And I say, well, just as I said here, you can have Robert, you can have George, you can have, you know, I don't really like okay, with a bishop, the title bishop never goes with the individual. As you know, the title bishop always goes with a place. The bishop of New York, the bishop of Johannesburg, the bishop of so on. So it would be Robert, the bishop of. Now, now there are two types of bishops. There are what are called diocesan bishops and titular bishops, title bishops. So if a bishop has no geographical set location that they are responsible for, they are consecrated with a titled see. My titled see is Bodh Gaya in India. Bodh Gaya is where the historical Buddha entered enlightenment. And there was at one time, for about 15 years, I was working with a Roman Catholic nun in Bodh Gaya who was doing a lot of women's empowerment work, both Hindu and Muslim. And so I would, our order would support her, and I would end up in Bodh Gaya almost every year and work with the women. It was more of an informal situation. And Bishop Oliver is titular bishop of Lumbini, and that is where the historical Buddha got born. He entered the phenomenal realm in Lumbini. And so in Rome, you will find most of the bishops connected with the Vatican have titular sees because they have no geographical location to which they are held responsible for. Okay?
Yes, just interesting. I think you must come back and we must follow on with some more discussion. It's been really interesting, but also for the very inspiring talk, and the link with Zen is interesting for us because we are completely open into faith, into spiritual, into religious group of people. So thank you so much for being with us, and I'll leave it to Eugene to close the program. But in the meantime, enjoy your stay in South Africa, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you very much. Peace. God love you all.
Thank you.
And pray for me, huh? Please remember that. Thank you.
Thanks for coming, everyone, especially to all our newcomers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, EJ. Okay, bye.